And what I wanted to show in this one is that the heart is not a separate organ from the vessels. We say we have a torso, but we don't really have a torso, and we don't really have a brain as a separate organ. It's just a part of something else. So with arms and legs and head, we have a whole body: brain, spinal cord, nerves. We look at them as separate units, but they're not. It's very, very important to recognize, yes, we move the left arm or we move the right leg, but it's not really a separate unit. So we did a little bit with the lungs to see, yes, it goes into the spine, the legs, the arms, the head. So this first drawing that I showed is just that the heart is where the pivot spirals into some other. And what I would like to share is another way of looking at the heart than this big pump, which stresses. It's an approach to the heart that stresses the heart, to feel it as a central pump, having to do all of this work, rather than that it's simply the place through the, it's part of the vascular system where there's a change of spiraling. At the end of each artery, which means away from the heart, A and A is helpful if you have the same challenge as I have with words. The arteries are not separate because there's no division here. There's a division in my hand, but the arteries flow into the veins, into the heart. The heart then flows here, it comes back. It's all spiraling. And if any part becomes unaware of its own existence, then other parts have to take over, including the heart. It's kind of a parent with children. If a child is having difficulty, the parent takes on that stress. So we want all of it. Also, if the parent's having stress, it moves to the child. So we're a unit as a family, and we're a unit in our circulatory system. There is no break unless we cut ourselves. And what happens in the capillary beds, when I studied many years ago lymphatic circulation, it was the Vater system. So in the Vater system, they talked about the isoring, I-S-O-R-I-N-G, isoring, which we don't have in the English anatomy. Well, we have it, but we don't have the word. And the isoring is where in the capillary beds, the arterial flow is moving into the venous flow. There's no break, it's just a change. We can look at it similar to the estuary, where the ocean and the rivers are meeting. It's not like it just goes from ocean here and river there. There's a mingling in the estuary. So we have that same thing here in the isoring. And because it's not just this goes here and then goes there, I like to call it the zone of the isoring. Z-O-N-E of the isoring. So in the capillary beds, which are everywhere, so that every cell has access to the circulation of blood, that there's a place, a very dynamic place of energizing of the blood that's important for the resting of the heart. Because if this is not working, then there's nothing bringing back the blood and drawing the blood. That's why exercise is so important, to keep the circulation flowing back. So we have the zone of the isoring everywhere. If you bring your hands out as one piece of it, and bring your fingers together. If your ends of your fingers had magnets, which they do have, they would be drawn together so that you couldn't bring your fingers apart. Can you feel that? If you get in touch with your magnetism of the ends of your fingers, you can't pull them apart. So you're not pressing them. It's not pressing. It's feeling the magnetism. And then if you reverse the magnetism, they'll pop apart. It's different than if you press them together and you pull them apart. So play with that, where you press your fingers together and you pull them apart with your arm, or you feel the magnetism pulling them together, and then it's that if you reversed it, they just pop open. Play with that a few moments. Do the same thing with your feet. You could do that with any part of your body, but your hands and your face have the most. So again, feel how your fingertips are magnets, and they are held together by electromagnetic sensitivity to each other. And then when the magnetism reverses, they pop apart. Versus pressing your fingers together and pulling them apart. You can do that with your face. Put your hands to your face. You could not take your hands away or your face away, and then voila. Versus using your hands to touch your face or your face to touch your hands. There's a field. There's an electric field and there's a blood field. The blood field has more weight. The neural field is more electrical. It's like later maybe we'll do this, to take a balloon and fill it with water. There's a weight versus a balloon that has air. So nervous is more air, blood is more water balloon. We have the balloons, we just didn't fill them yet. So with your hands together, it's blood. There's a blood. So when we are moving next, how we are one unit of flowing blood. And that our heart is just where it changes direction. There's a video on YouTube called The Helical Heart, H-E-L-I, Hela, C-A-L, helical heart, the spiraling helix. And a man in Spain who passed only fairly recently, a few years ago, spent his at least 30 or more years studying the heart And in the video, it shows how he takes a heart with his hands and unwinds it back to the original tube. But the heart has different origins, but one is the coming together and then the spiraling. So, this is an illustration. They're very similar. I did the one, the blood through the heart, and then I saw an illustration. I thought, well, that is also bringing in the diaphragm and the placement of the heart with some of the vessels and the thorax. There's so much emphasis on core strength being a held position. And so what I would like to share in these 12 days is to let go of the core strength and to find the strength that's given to us freely without us doing anything at all except to stop inhibiting it. And one of the ways is to release the stress to your heart. So that reminded me what I'd like to do next. There's so many paths to Rome. I'd like to get out the track balls, please. Just as we did this with the fingers, not to push it and pull it, but to feel the attraction of the blood. The magnetism in the blood, the field of the blood. There's a difference between taking these balls and squeezing them and feeling the magnetism of the blood with the ball. I'll face different directions. So here I'm squeezing the ball, but here I'm just feeling the magnetism of the blood. Squeezing the magnetism, so it's coming into my heart. My heart is supported. Instead of from my heart, I do this only once, I press the ball. This is bringing blood back to my heart. So, squeezing, and that magnetism coming back. Squeezing and enlivening my blood. Sometimes illness can show us something that when we are healthy, we don't recognize as easily. And I had a very dear friend close to 40 years ago. We were friends longer. But he had a massive heart attack, so that 60% of his heart stopped working, and he had about 40% left. And he was in New York. We had moved to Massachusetts, so this was in the 70s. And we went immediately to New York and other things, but this was a primary source of his recovery. They didn't think he would recover. Not only this, wonderful wife and family and other things, was he couldn't roll over. He couldn't do anything. But with these balls, he learned to roll over and eventually to go back to work and to fly and to teach. And he regained, I think, 60%. And he lived another 10 years. Still not long enough, but this was primary in his healing. Immediately, he could roll over. So this is what you will each have two. I don't know if you can see, you may have to come here. So lying down, and feel the difference between lifting. Can you hear me okay? Between lifting the ball and feeling that magnetism, and it lifts you. Instead of rolling back through your back, the magnetism of the ball to your heart rolls you back. Instead of going this way with your legs or your spine, find this blood from the zone of the isoring flowing through your body, hand to foot. Foot, we can also do this. Not as easy. But once you have the feeling, can you see that my whole, page 15? Can you see page 15? So my heart never pushes the blood. It simply cycles it through into another direction. So instead of I have to stretch, I use my heart to stretch, I use my core to sit, no. I just feel the vitality of my blood.